I'm recording this at the end of my summer holidays. Besides doing these videos and bits of photography, I'm a teacher in a school, and it's that funny thing how quickly the summer holidays go. Well, at the beginning of the holidays, back in late July, I took a few days out near Oxford, and I was staying not far from the delightful town of Witney. I hadn't been to Witney before, and I stumbled upon it one afternoon, and to my great surprise was what I would call a traditional camera shop. This camera shop was just about to close, and in the window was a couple of things I quite liked. And as I said, it was literally about to close, and I checked whether they were open next day, and they were. And I pondered about the things I was looking at, and I thought, well, perhaps if they're still there the next morning, I might buy them. Well, the next day, and this camera shop, by the way, is called T4 Cameras, and they were brilliant to deal with and had a really good display of modern digital stuff and some second-hand film equipment, which you don't find very often. So the next day, I actually spent the day at Bletchley Park, which was fascinating. But I managed to get back to Witney for about 4 o'clock, and the camera was obviously still there. And what I'm talking about was a Nikon, and it was this, what I'm going to call a beast, because it is heavy. And this is the Nikon F4. I've talked before about particularly the F2 and lots of different Nikon cameras, and have explained how Nikon, I think, were brilliant and are brilliant at doing the whole range of photography for all the different needs. And the F4 was a professional camera introduced in 1988, and it's very much in one sense, it's very much in the tradition of Nikon and in high quality professional cameras. It's also fascinating because it shows this sort of turn towards more automotive and lots of new innovation. Nikon has always been a good innovator in my view, and the F4 is definitely one of those. It is a heavy camera, and it might not be a camera I use every day, but it was made for the professional photographer who was in a very demanding area, and it needed to be tough. And although the camera has some plastic in it, it's majority a metal based camera, and obviously has quite a strong frame. So let's start to look at, I've actually got a film in here, so I can't actually open it, but we do have a motor rind, so when we load the film it's automatically loaded up, which is nice and easy. But we can manually wind the film back, but it has got electronic wind here by pressing the R1 and the R2, which is slightly different, but R1 and R2 placed in position will wind the film back. But if we look at the top of the camera, it looks remarkably similar in one sense to things like the F3. We have a traditional shutter ring here. What isn't quite traditional is, as this is a top range Nikon, the shutter speeds go from 4 seconds up to 4,000th of a second. It is the first professional automatic focusing Nikon, and I'm just going to mention some of the ways of use. As I said, it will take all the F lenses, apart from the modern lenses will have some aperture and operating problems, but we have autofocus lens on here. The lens I've got here at the moment is the 24 to 50 3.3, so it's a super lens I find for landscapes. Now let's look at a bit of the operating the top of the camera. To switch on, we either have lock or we then have single shot at the time, and CH, CL and CS is silent continuous, high continuous, low continuous. So high continuous is shots going quickly, and CL is low and S is silence. And then we've got a self timer on there. So that's the on, off and shooting modes. Then we have manual, and so we can set the shutter speed as we like there, and the aperture as we like on the ring. This is, in some sense, this is a transitional camera from the F3 to what we then see with the F5 and F6. In the viewfinder, it did get me a little confused, because in the viewfinder you can see in the window the traditional live view of the aperture, but when you are going into the automatic modes you then see a LED version of the apertures and selection. So we have manual, aperture, priority, so you select the aperture and the camera will automatically select the shutter speed. We can select shutter speed, and at this point you need to put the lens on f22, and that then makes it into an automatic lens. So S for shutter speed and P for program, and I think PH is program, but it will take a high shutter speed, which is thinking about if you are having longer lenses. You have a plus and minus control for aperture if we want to over or under expose, which is shown in the shutter as well. We have flash, we have the different focusing modes, again continuous, single and manual, and that is basically it. The automatic focusing is was very advanced for its time, and that is selected on the Prism. We actually have a spot, a matrix and a central for focusing, and that was quite revolutionary for this time. As I said, it is a heavy camera to use. However, let's see how I got on with it in the field.
First photograph I was very pleased with indeed. It's very sharply in focus. I like the aperture, depth of field. I was pleased with this. And the next shot, absolutely fine. The light was fading a bit. I was shooting one evening late in August, and I don't think it was far from the sun actually, perhaps an hour of what we often call the golden hour. Again, this is quite sharp. It's a 24 to 50mm Nikon lens, and actually I don't think it's as sharp as perhaps it could be, and obviously if I was using prime line lenses it would be sharper. However, what is important is how I got on with the camera, and it is a delight to use. It is heavy compared to the lighter things like the F100 and the F80. However, you really feel that you are using a serious piece of equipment. You've got the choices of aperture priority, shutter priority or manual, so you've got a good range of choices there. You definitely feel as a photographer you are in charge. Now this is pushing the lens to 3.8, 4.5, so I've got a little bit of lack of depth of field there. This is where I think the lens was letting me down a little bit. The tonal range is good. This was taken with let me think, it was with Kent Mir Pan 100 film, which is a film very similar to FP4. It was developed in ID11 and has been scanned on a Ilford Perfection 32,000 scanner. As I said, the film developer I use is ID11, and I like to develop that with a dilution of 1:1. Again, this last shot here was quite bright light. The lens definitely performs better with a good amount of light. However, the camera I felt performed extremely well. I really enjoyed using the camera. The autofocusing, I was amazed with how fast and how efficient the autofocusing was. It is a camera that I will definitely take out again. It's just, as I said, not the lightest of cameras. However, if you want a tough camera, and it remains, I think, quite good value compared to some of the other Fs. So that's the Nikon F4. I would advise, recommend one if you can find one. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.